Hello and welcome to Designing Multimedia. My name is Dave Dalton. The best way to reach me throughout the semester should you have any questions is my email address, ddalton@kent.edu. If you have need for a phone call or personal support, my office hours are listed on the syllabus on the webpage we'll get to in just a moment. Similarly, should I need to contact you, I'll be using your Kent email address. By now, I hope you've had a chance to review the course website at www.folioweb.org/itech/multimedia. There you'll find the course syllabus, an outline of the schedule, and description of projects, as well as some resources that you may find helpful in completing projects during the semester. By now, also, I hope you've had a chance to register for a free lifetime FolioWeb account at www.folioweb.org. The folioweb.org site is going to be useful for you uploading projects and also to participate in the course blog. You're going to be completing 5 projects during the semester, all designed to give you a survey of popular multimedia tools, at least genres of multimedia tools that are used in K-16 environments. We'll begin with an animated slideshow either in PhotoStory, a free product from Microsoft, or iPhoto, part of the iLife suite built into the Macintosh operating system. Here you'll basically be creating a Ken Burns-like slideshow, that is, slides, visuals that fade, animate, etc. Sometimes have text-based annotations and typically a musical kind of background designed to illustrate a procedure, an event, that kind of thing. If you've never seen this before, I would strongly suggest that you rent or take a quick PBS view of one of the Ken Burns documentaries. They give you a really good sense of the kind of project that we're going to be about. Next, we'll tackle an audio podcast with a program called Audacity. Audacity is an open-source, full-featured audio editor available for both Mac and Windows. It has a lot of features, but fortunately we're only going to be using a couple. We'll begin with an audio introduction and fade into your main program audio. And your program audio can consist of you speaking, or you and others speaking, or others speaking as you see fit. If you've never had experience with the podcast before, a good beginning is to download and install and go to the iTunes program, the iTunes store, and download a free podcast. A good place, I think, specifically to start might be the slate.com. If you go to slate.com, even without iTunes, you can download some of their podcasts and get a sense of how they work. Very similar to what I just suggested, an audio intro followed by typically 2 or 3 segments lasting about 30 minutes for their podcasts. If you choose an educational topic, a really good idea here is to have a couple of people debating or discussing the topic, going back and forth, and that makes for a lively podcast. I think what you want to try to avoid here is you speaking from notes, or even worse, from a script. It'll be very difficult for most people to attend to your podcast here. We're also going to try a screen capture with Camtasia. Recently, Camtasia has become a cross-platform tool. It used to be Windows only. Now there is a Mac version. The Mac version is not quite as powerful, but that's good in many cases. Camtasia is also a very full-featured program. Camtasia is a commercially available product. That is, it costs money, and it's actually relatively expensive. So we're going to do the 30-day free trial of Camtasia. There are free or cheaper products available that do the same thing, but Camtasia will give you the full experience. It's a very useful program for educators to be familiar with. So what we're going to do here is produce an on-screen, sometimes called a screencast, that will teach people something related to technology. Typically, Camtasia is used to teach skills like how to do something in Photoshop, or how to configure your email client, and you can walk people through exactly what you're doing on the screen while you're narrating or describing what you're doing, and produce a full video experience that will help them learn how to use something on the computer. What you're viewing right now is also a Camtasia video. I have Camtasia going while I have PowerPoint going, so I'm talking while I'm recording my PowerPoint. That's a built-in feature in all versions of Camtasia, and it's a very powerful tool to create programs like you're viewing now. The biggest project we'll tackle is an instructional video editing project with Adobe Premiere Elements. Premiere Elements is a condensed version, basic version of the Adobe flagship program called Premiere Pro. It's very inexpensive, generally in the neighborhood of $60, but it also has a 30-day free trial. Just like with Camtasia, What we're going to try to do is time our use of these programs. So we have an 8-week course in total, which is about double the length that that these trial versions will last. So what you'll want to do is time your download and installation of these 30-day free trials to avoid paying for the software. Now, alternatively, of course, you could pay for the full versions of the software, but that is absolutely not necessary if you time things correctly. Now, as I mentioned, Premiere is probably the most complicated tool that we'll be using, and I strongly recommend that you use the course textbook, Adobe Premiere Elements Classroom in a Book, listed on the course syllabus. It's about $35 available from online resellers. The total number of lessons in the book takes about 20 hours to go through. That's a little slow. I find that you can get through them a little faster, so maybe about 15 hours. But like with most full-featured software tools, there are a lot of panels and functions in Premiere, many of which you won't ever need, but to be systematically exposed to them through a structured set of tutorials is the most powerful way of learning them. It's how all of us have learned most of the powerful tools: Dreamweaver, Photoshop, Premiere, After Effects, Cold Fusion, etc., etc. Structured tutorials that are designed to progressively reveal the critical elements of the software in a logical manner, produced by experts, is the best way of learning these tools. Just as an aside, the Classroom in a Book series began for Photoshop at version 2 or 2.5 many years ago in the mid-80s, and it was designed for internal training purposes at Adobe to help their customer service representatives help people that called the telephone. And the Classroom in a Book series launched a cottage industry of these training materials. There were very few of them, if any, available at that time. So Adobe pioneered the Classroom in a Book series, and that's been how most professionals have learned, through that same kind of approach, and I would strongly recommend you go through that. These programs do not lend themselves well to dabble. You won't get very much out of what the software can do by just opening it up and trying to figure stuff out. There certainly are programs that you can do that with, but everything that we're going to be tackling, with the possible exception of PhotoStory and iPhoto, really require you to spend some time looking at the tutorials that come with the software or purchasing a textbook and going through them systematically. So we'll be budgeting our time with Elements, Premiere, to both work with the tool to create a useful instructional video, but also to go through the structured tutorials. Finally, you'll complete an independent project of your choosing. And the options are listed on the syllabus, but I want to list them out for you here. Basically, you could continue with any one of the tools that we've described above and go in depth or create a more advanced example of a multimedia project with that tool. That's fine. You can select a completely different tool with the caveat that it be a fairly advanced tool. That is, I don't want you to use a very basic tool like Movie Maker, especially Windows Live Movie Maker, the newer version, very, very easy to use, and there's really not much to it. So pick a little bit more of an advanced tool and create sort of your project of your own choosing, very much like the first four. There are a couple of options to complete papers. That is, you can do a research paper on a topic related to multimedia, and it would be basically a research proposal, or you can also do a curriculum that would be designed to teach other educators how to use a multimedia tool or how to use a series of multimedia tools, so an in-service or pre-service training activity. Of course, you can propose a completely different project that you think would be more suitable for your professional goals, and we just need to communicate that and arrive at an agreement on what that project would entail. So you have considerable flexibility, freedom on this last project. I would hope that you would select something that you will benefit from very directly through this project in either your direct professional setting or something that you've been personally interested. Use it as an opportunity to explore that tool that you haven't quite got around to learning. On the course website, I've suggested some materials that you may need to be successful in completing these projects. And as this slide indicates, all of these materials are optional. I don't think that you can learn these programs and complete these projects without some support. And obviously, I believe that the materials I've listed for you are the best, or I wouldn't have suggested them. But if you have alternatives, alternative textbooks, videos, a friend that can help you, whatever you want to use, that's fine. And similarly with the microphone that we'll talk about in just a minute. So again, I suggest that you use the Adobe Premiere Elements Classroom in a Book. There are training videos available on this, for example, at lynda.com. You don't have to use Premiere Elements 9, but be wary if you're using an earlier version. Chances are it's not Mac cross-platform. That's a relatively new development. So if you have an older version of the book, the trick, of course, is to make sure that the book you use matches the software that you have available. Otherwise, it'll be quite confusing along the way. Again, I suggest that you don't skip the book. The book is going to be time very, very well spent. I hope you also find learning tools like this to be somewhat rewarding and fun. If you do, you're going to find the book fast-paced and read the margins, read a lot. You'll learn an awful lot about how digital video works if you go through this textbook. All of the materials, including PhotoStory even, have quick getting started guides, and generally they're sufficient. The Getting Started guide that I've produced for Audacity, for example, will show you everything you need to know in just a few minutes to complete the project. There are advanced tutorial materials for all of them, linked from the websites, and I provided links to those on the resources page. But the Getting Started guides are probably sufficient for you to get started. But be sure to dig in a little deeper. If you run into an opportunity to explore an advanced feature, be sure to check the tutorial materials. PhotoStory, Audacity, and Camtasia have extremely good websites with lots of materials available for you. And again, they're at a basic level, they're not particularly hard programs to learn, I don't believe. Now, you're going to be completing 2 projects at least that involve audio production. For example, the video project, you're going to be recording some video, and depending on the camera that you have available, you may be using a microphone built into the camera. Chances are that's going to be relatively poor quality audio and inconsistent audio. If you go from, say, a close-up to a medium shot to a wide shot, the microphone is going to produce a spotty kind of audio quality. In my opinion, there are 2 success indicators of a good video project. One is good lighting, consistent lighting. That is, you don't shoot in low light where everything looks kind of orange and fuzzy. You bring in light. Another good indicator is good audio quality. If either one of those 2 things is missing, it instantly looks amateurish. So a microphone is a really good thing to be using, and a good microphone to purchase might be a Tietac microphone. A good one of those can be as inexpensive as about $30 and on up to how much money you have. But even a $7 or $8 microphone, a Tietac microphone, will produce pretty darn good results. Similarly, for the Audacity project, a good microphone, could be the same microphone you use for video, will produce much better quality audio. Do not use the built-in microphone on the camcorder or the laptop if there is any way you can avoid it. A, you'll lose points, and B, you'll be disappointed with the results. Audio quality is extremely important for both of these projects, and the way to kill it is to use the cheap, fuzzy, poor quality microphones built into those 2 technologies. Very much worth the investment. If you know somebody in the class, you might consider doing sort of a study buddy approach, split the cost and share a little bit, but it's definitely worthwhile. Let me give you a couple of quick suggestions on specific kinds of microphones. Logitech is a company that I buy a lot of stuff from, and I like it quite a bit. I've rarely been disappointed by Logitech stuff. Logitech makes a series of USB plug-in microphones, and there's a number of advantages of using a USB microphone when you're recording from a computer. Right now I'm talking on a USB Logitech headset. It's a stereo headset with a little microphone, and the advantages of that particular approach is that I can keep the microphone exactly the same distance from my mouth, and except for picking up very sensitive background sounds and the creaking of my chair or a wiggling of a wire, I have very, very little problems with that. There's about a $20 Logitech desktop microphone with a little button on it that you can press to turn on and off, and that's really a handy little guy. Lots and lots of schools use classroom sets of these Logitech microphones. They're about 8 inches long and again, plug into a USB. Really a good thing to throw in a laptop bag or keep in a drawer. Pretty handy piece of technology. So again, strong recommendation, use a good quality microphone, practice with the microphone, the distance from your mouth to the microphone. Do it in a room where there's not a lot of ambient noise, because audio quality on both the Audacity project and the video project will really tell if it's not good. And as I already mentioned, you'll need a FolioWeb account to participate in the course blog and to turn in your assignments when they become due. So our basic procedures in working with the projects will be to first email a project topic for me just to make sure that you're on the right track in terms of scope. So a quick email, I'll respond and say, go for it, sounds great. Or, I might have a suggestion for you on how you might be able to improve the idea so that's a little bit more useful to you. You'll complete the projects as described on the assignments page, and as I've described here today. And then you'll post your completed assignments by the deadline to FolioWeb. Please use the required file names, and that'll make sure that we can find stuff. And then as soon as the grading of the project has been completed, usually pretty darn quickly, check the feedback page for feedback and email me with any questions or concerns about the evaluation you've received on the project. So we've seen how the projects can help us learn a variety of multimedia skills. The blog portion of the course is going to help us think about some ideas related to how multimedia might apply to the field of education. So the basic procedures for the blogs are that you're going to be viewing a vodcast that I produce on a multimedia issue. For example, the first one is entitled Why Multimedia? That'll be available during the second week of classes. So you'll post an initial response to the question via FolioWeb, click on the communication button and select blog, and there'll be a question waiting for you there. Using the blog and FolioWeb is pretty self-explanatory. Then throughout the next few days, read your classmates' posts. Get some ideas of what they think about the question and the vodcast, and then post a response to the classmates' ideas by the second due date, so that each one of the vodcasts has a sort of beginning and a final reflection on your part. So you'll post 2 per each vodcast. 4 times 2 is 8 total throughout the semester. Now these are top-heavy. At the beginning of the semester, you're going to be dealing with more blogging. At the end of the semester, more of your culminating project work. So be mindful that they're not evenly spaced. Finally, let's deal with some frequently asked questions related to the course. Do the projects have to be instructional in nature? The short answer is no. The long answer is it's probably best that you consider selecting a project that teaches somebody something. It's a College of education course, and it's probably better than pictures of your kids at Disneyland sort of a thing. Can you propose alternative projects? So for example, I already have heard from a student in the class who's got a great deal of video experience, and having that person work in Adobe Premiere Elements is probably not the best use of their time. So if there's something you've already done, you really don't want to waste your time doing it, or just that you don't see yourself ever doing anything like that ever, I might arm wrestle you on that a little bit. But certainly, please do propose an alternative. Again, the only caveat is that your alternative should represent about the same amount of time and effort as my suggestions. What criteria are used in grading projects? Generally, because this is a survey or an intro course, I'm going to be most concerned with your technical effort and not so much your pedagogy or not so much your creativity. So did you do the best you could to get the project tight in terms of its technical aspects? So I belabored the point about producing good quality audio earlier. That's kind of important. It's generally my belief that sloppy projects, poor quality, poor technical quality is really just an inattention to detail. You listened to it, it sounded terrible, and you said, good enough. Well, if that's how you perceive things, it's probably not going to get the best grade possible. So can you resubmit a project to improve your grade? So you've submitted it and it didn't get quite the assessment that you'd like. Can you do it again? Yes, as long as it's done in a timely fashion. That is, and it's going to be, individual to each student. But if you go 5 or 6 weeks into the semester, we're up against the final, and the difference between a B+ and an A- is redoing a project that you did at the beginning of the course. I'm going to be much less reasonable than if you said, hey, you know what, I think I could put a little polish on this one and turn it in a couple of days. That's more likely to be met with success. How flexible are deadlines? They're not. Deadlines are deadlines. If the project isn't done on time, it's not. There's no penalty. It's just won't going to be accepted. The penalty is a 0. So please make sure you get your projects done. You're going to have to keep up the pace. It's a tight schedule, but there is enough time, and deadlines are not flexible. What resources and help are available? I've endeavored to find a good variety of resources to help you complete the projects that are sufficient in scope, but not overwhelming. That is, I'm not going to give you 400 things to read about anything, sort of a just-in-time or just enough sort of focus. Still, if you need other help, you're trying something and you're just not getting it, it doesn't make sense to you, the best thing to do is email me, and I'll see if I can answer your question. And if that's not the case, I'll point you towards some additional resources. And if that doesn't help, then what we'll do is try to get together. Now, for many of you, this is a distance class. That may not be feasible. So what we might try to do is a phone call or a rapid fire exchange of emails, but we'll try to get you the assistance that you need. And finally, because people always ask this, how long should my blog be? It's kind of typical of internet communications. This doesn't have to be an essay. A good crafted 3 or 4 sentence paragraph, and if we look at on the screen and it's more than 3 or 4 lines, you're probably risking people not reading your post carefully. So it's probably better to have a good short idea than a long treatise on anything. So really, a paragraph, 2 paragraphs at the most. So short, pithy, thought-provoking, those are good ethics. So as we wrap up our orientation, I'd like to wish you just good luck in completing the work. I find this course to be an exciting one to teach because students tend to like the projects. These are fun tools, and they're powerful tools. They're tools that are really good for teacher leaders, educational technologists in K-16 settings to know about. Whether you're ever going to be working with these specific tools or not, chances are very good you're going to be working with these genres of tools. So I hope you find that the structure of the course, while rapid fire, is conducive to having some fun and getting quite a bit out of it. So good luck, have fun, and please communicate with me and let me know if there's anything I can do to make the experience better for you.